would be the morning without some technical difficulties? So I've been here for a year now, and it seems like no matter where I go around the world, there's always technical difficulties, whether that's a conference call that it takes 20 minutes for everybody to get in and on the same thing, or that's a meeting or a conference. It doesn't matter how technical. I go to tech companies and I still have the same technical issues. So it doesn't really matter about the people there and the skills that you have. There's always got to be something to help start off the day. So as you admitted, India's not a morning market, and I hope I won't bore you guys to sleep and kind of give you guys something new and something different that a lot of the people in the marketplace have been wanting to know about, right? But it's something that, I'll be honest, there hasn't been a whole lot of information that we've been able to share yet, but luckily a lot of that's changing, and we'll be looking to tell you a lot more about what we're doing on the measurement side. So, if I can get these slides to work, so as you mentioned, I'm from BARC, so I head digital for BARC. All you guys would know BARC from the TV ratings, but ultimately what we'll be looking to talk about more today is about the digital measurement, right? Obviously from an OTT perspective, that's a big part of what we're looking to be able to do here is, from BARC perspective, we measure what people watch. But as you mentioned, what people watch isn't always on TV these days. So if you're not measuring what everyone's watching, is how do we get to that component? So BARC launched our ACOM suite. So ACOM is the oneness, right? It's how do we bring the oneness and the unification of TV plus digital measurement together so we can get the total view of what people are watching. Because again, if somebody watches TV in the morning, right, they go to work, and on the way to work they're consuming something on a streaming device, they get to work and they're bored, so they log on their computer and they're watching some clips and stuff on YouTube. On the way back to work, on the way back home, they're again consuming one of their favorite TV shows because they have a long commute. So again, we're not talking about TV necessarily always shifting to digital. We're talking about incremental, right? A lot of people, their mobile device is now their first chance to have and consume what they want when they want. That's not something that a lot of people have. Again, in the US, when you have a small family size of around 2 people on average, and you have more smart TVs per household, you can consume what you want on the TV screen still. Here, you have large family size, roughly still 1 TV households, which means there's going to be a lot of incremental time of the TV still on. People are still consuming there, right? But there's incremental of additional people consuming different content on their own devices. And again, there's additional time that, again, TV is watched in the household, but there's hours and hours spent by each person each day, right? On the way to work, waiting for meetings, and all that time is now moving more and more towards consuming video content. But what's going on around the world, right? So that's one of the things we're talking about. So in the UK, for example, UK, the digital ad spends are actually double that of TV. You don't see that in most markets, right? US, though, digital just surpassed TV this year, but they're relatively the same. So you have double it in the UK, you have just relatively the same in the US, but at 72 billion as an digital ad market, right? So it's a little bit different there in terms of size. But again, a lot of that is driven by mobile, and within mobile, video. Video is the largest growth market, or the largest growth component to media around the world. And that's one of the few things that you can see something consistent with. No matter what market you look at, it's digital, and it's typically mobile and video within digital that is growing the quickest in each and every market. Now, even if you have a slower growth market like Japan, where they're only growing around 1.9% overall, digital still accounts for the biggest component of that growth at 13%. And from that perspective, Japan, though, digital is still well under that of TV and traditional media, but there you even have a different landscape where you have promotional media still well over that, the handhelds and all that, the flyers. Whereas again, in India, we're starting to jump ahead of some of that stuff. And again, although in India, the actual spends in India are multiples less on TV versus digital. However, it's a big growth market. With $1 billion digital ad industry today, it's something that we're a long ways behind where the US and other markets are, but one of the problems is that people keep trying to compare us to the US, to the UK, to these other markets. In reality, India is unique. When I first moved here, it was very clear to me that India is a unique market. What happens in the US, the trends that we see in these other markets aren't the same trends that you're going to see here in India. There you have one primary language with maybe 1 or 2 small languages that you have a subset of consumption coming from. But in India, you have over 50% of your video content being consumed on regional languages. And that's across 20 plus languages. There's no other market in the world that has that issue that they have to overcome. And as an OTT industry, right, how do you create that variety of content, that diverse of platforms to really serve India as a whole? So from that perspective, we can have a lot of challenges that other markets don't. In the US, again, you have high internet bandwidth, you have, again, smart TV penetration, you have routers in the household where a lot of that can be consumed at high speed, where people aren't worried about the video consumption. Here, we're just starting that, right? The Geo broke the trend with a lot of stuff. We're looking to have a lot more coming in the coming years, I expect. Again, once somebody disrupts, more and more people look to disrupt as well. And so again, as internet speeds go up, as bandwidth for the video consumption on your mobile devices comes down, you're going to see those trends going up. But it's something that we need to look at. Now, it's something that is growing the quickest. Now, in India, the digital ad industry is growing around 30 to 40% year over year. No other market has seen that type of growth. To be able to triple within 5 years of what they're doing today, right? Again, that's unheard of in most markets. But that's because there's a lot of untapped potential. There's still a lot of people coming online for the first time, where most of these other markets have had that penetration for years now. And so it's something that, again, we have to look at not just where the other industries are, right? But where is India, right? And how is India different in that? And again, from a BARC perspective is, how do we ensure that we're measuring that for you so we have a more robust measurement so that you guys can all look at and compare and see that across the industry? So a couple figures that I had, so around 160 billion video content impressions. That's huge, right? So actually, if you were to even just have to try to count to 160 billion, that'd take you over 5,000 years. We're 5,000 years just to count to that. Now, and you guys want to take that chance, I'll wait and see how long it takes you. But ultimately, again, it's a lot to measure. Luckily, we have a lot more robust measurements. We don't have to count it. It's more systematic. But that's part of what we're looking to do, is there's a lot that has to be out there measured, both on the content and on the ad side, and it's only growing. It's growing quicker and quicker year over year, and it's something that we have to get in front of. We have to get the measurement in place, because if we don't have the measurement, then everyone's out there quoting their own numbers. I have my metric, somebody else has their own metric, but if nobody looks at a standard metric, a standard idea of what it is that we're looking at, because even an impression, a view, you ask 3 different people, they have different definitions as to what an impression or a view is. So it's not even just, that's the first step, right? Even how you define the metric. Then how you measure the metric, the penetration of your measurement, the robustness of your measurement. When you look at the methodologies from one to the other, that's why you can see 20 to 40% skews in the exact same numbers. Even these numbers, these aren't BARC numbers. We don't have our measurement up in place. That's part of what we're trying to be able to solve for the industry, is providing reliable industry metrics about what is actually happening in a more robust and reliable way that people can trust what it is that we're putting out there. Now, every market that we're looking at, again, so no matter that digital is, India is different than all the other markets around the world, it's something that everyone is looking for TV plus digital. Every time I talk to somebody from another industry market, from another country, another measurement provider, they're not all looking to solve TV, they're not looking to solve digital, they're looking to solve the TV plus digital, right? It's not one or the other, it's both. And it's providing that unification, that standardization, where they can look at both numbers and feel confident that one is equal to the other. How do you compare a GRP that has weighted average audiences to an impression that's over like that? There's no qualification, right? There's the idea of robotic and viewability issues on digital that TV doesn't face in the same way. So again, how do you actually look at and compare from one to the other? And that's where you need a robust measurement in place to get your TV plus digital, where it's done by a common body, so you ensure the commonalities of the measurement and the metrics. Now, what BARC is looking to do is something, it's a TV first, or it's a first for a TV JIC around the world. So I've spoken to most of the major TV JICs around the world, and they all want to do TV plus digital, but they all do it in a different way. Most of them are stuck on legacy systems. They have a legacy mentality of, we've been doing it this way, maybe we'll get mobile in the next couple years, and then maybe after that we can try to get TV plus digital, but if we do TV plus digital, maybe we'll only do for broadcasters. Have you ever met an advertiser agency who says, I only buy on digital video for broadcast? No, right? That's not how the clients buy on it, which means that's not how you should measure it and show it to them, because then you have more fragmentation. In those markets, like the UK, for example, they have to look at their TV plus digital for broadcaster on one, they're digital only on another. But again, then they can't compare those and see the entire ecosystem. So if you can't look at the entire ecosystem, if you can't compare from one to the other, that's the biggest challenge that is faced today that all the industry is looking for someone like BARC to solve. So because of the India landscape, we're looking at a mobile-first approach in mind. Almost no other TV JIC around the world has tried to solve things in a TV-first mentality because they were able to gradually move up from PC and add mobile later. Now, we're looking to launch for all streaming video of ads and content, looking at a 5-product rollout, including TV plus digital. A 5-product rollout is unheard of in any of these other markets. No other country comes to trying to launch a measurement service with that many products in this quick a succession of what BARC is trying to do. But BARC in India is unique. What they saw them do, what you saw BARC do on the TV side, right, was an industry first as well. We're looking to be able to continue that on the digital side because ultimately that's what the industry needs. That's what India needs, right? India needs this measurement in place so that they can look at this and truly start to compare and bring trust back. That's one of the biggest things that measurement provides, and measurement from an industry body provides, is that trust. Trust is what's lacking in the digital industry today, and that's what we need to bring back to the industry to help grow the digital spends. Now, we're, again, looking to launch these over the next 2 years. I'll talk a little bit about how we're looking to roll those out. We're looking to do it with big data along with Nielsen. So we made that announcement here a couple weeks ago that Nielsen will be our primary measurement provider. We'll be looking to leverage their backbone of their digital products and their tie-ups with the systems today. Now, the reason for that is, again, we looked at how do we get to the most robust measurement that we're able to get to, but also making it local. Now, just because we're using Nielsen as a measurement provider, they're helping us power the products, but they are still sold, supported, and reported by BARC, not by Nielsen. And so from that perspective, again, the industry body is looking to ensure that quality and consistency across the industry and not farm it out. Most other TV JICs around the world would have hired a measurement provider. The measurement provider would have done everything, and you would have remained with a lack of control over the quality and consistency of that. A big thing for BARC is how do we localize this? How do we bring what is unique and specific to the industry to the market? Because again, that's what the market demands. India can't have a global solution that works in other markets because India doesn't follow that same. Now, again, we'll also be looking to launch a single source panel. We have our TV panel today from BARC. We'll also be looking to launch a subset of that panel to be single source. Now, some people may not understand the significance of a single source panel, but ultimately, again, a single source panel is the gold standard around the world to get to TV plus digital measurement. Every other JIC that I've talked to, every other country, every other measurement provider I've talked to would love to have big data plus a single source panel plus a digital panel, because that's checking off all the major boxes of what they need to get that robust measurement. The TV plus digital can really, it's either done where you have everything separated and they create their fusion and their hooks of, well, this TV person seems similar to this digital person, so we'll say their habits are the same. But in reality, that doesn't always follow, right? A 40-year-old male and a 40-year-old male on paper may not have the same viewing habits, right? And again, it's something that you have to look at the individuals and not looking at a number or an ID. Now, again, the single source panel will help us. From that, again, it's something that around the world that's not really done. We'll also be looking to help tie the things together across the industry in something that's unique that most other markets, no other market has, which is something we're looking at called the VAL ID, the Common Video Asset Link ID. The idea of that is, again, being able to tie across TV and the digital platforms so you can more systematically identify where your content, where your ads are being played across the ecosystem and not have to look back and say, well, this one I think was here and it was here. Right? It's about being able to tie that together so you can get the true measurement and the actual reach and understanding of where that is going. Now, again, I hope you guys don't mind, I pulled this from an Indian television article just the other day. So according to the Cheetah Global Lab, they had a study that they did. So even if advertisers had a bigger advertising budget, Indian advertisers would retain a preference for traditional media. So one of the main reasons for this was that in present, the India ad market lacks industry standard, widely accepted performance evaluation standards. That's a tough thing to get to, right? How do you have, and somebody actually before this meeting was telling me about some other measurement companies from Singapore and India and the US that are trying to do and say that they're going to be doing TV plus digital measurement. But in reality, everyone can claim to be able to do TV plus digital measurement. Everyone can claim to do measurement in general. I can give you a number tomorrow, but is that number trustworthy? Can you rely on that number? Do the publishers and platforms trust that number as much as the agencies and advertisers? Are they willing to transact on that number because both of them feel that it's robust and they're confident in the company who provides it, and that the company provides it is focusing on the needs of the India marketplace? Again, a private company out there from some other market is going to give you a number. They're going to sell you a number because that's what you wanted. But an industry body is going to provide you a robust measurement because that's what the industry asked for. Again, we are here for the industry, we're made by the industry, which means my whole goals and objectives, what BARC's goals and objectives are, is to provide what the industry needs in the best way possible. I'm not here to make a dollar, I'm here to provide quality, reliable metrics that can be compared and transacted on, because that's what the industry is telling us that they want. They don't buy on impressions. They don't buy, again, they buy on impressions, they buy on clicks, but they don't, their ROI isn't driven by that. They use that because that's what's in the marketplace today. They use that because that's all they have access to. Tell me an advertiser who goes to their agency and says, I want you to buy 5 million impressions. That's your objective. What does that mean to them? 5 million impressions, it doesn't mean anything. That could be a robot. It could be that it wasn't actually in view. It could be, again, a 1 second versus a 2 second versus a 15 second. There's no way to quantify those or to create any kind of value or comparison when you're just giving a number. Again, clicks, installs, those are more, again, towards the value proposition of, hey, but again, how many, as OTT players, how many people download your app to uninstall it the next day or never use it again, right? Just because somebody clicked on something doesn't mean that they're going to buy your product. 98% of the stuff bought in India is still bought offline. So how is it that clicks are the one that's driving your ROI when most things are still bought offline in this market? Right? Again, an acquisition of downloading your app, that doesn't necessarily mean that a person's going to stay around and continue to use it, right? A lot of times you're probably paying more for those to acquire those users than to actually get that back from any kind of ad or subscription revenue. Now, some of the industry issues that are faced from publishers and platforms is that different agencies and advertisers all want to trade on their own metrics. Every agency and advertiser has their own data sets, their own evaluations. They all come to you trying to get to something different. But again, how as a publisher or platform do you really come up with consistency and be able to feel confident that you're able to provide that measurement to them when they all want something different? You can't optimize your site, your app, in a way that meets everybody's standards because everybody's standards are different. That's how you have to find the standardization. That's what's missing, is that you have a standardized thing to optimize to on the publisher and platform side. It's something that the advertising agencies can rely on and be able to trust across the place. Now, different standards used, right? But not being able to understand your own platform on the measurement used today is one of the hardest things. People come to you saying, well, I use this study, I use this measurement provider, I use this. But unless you understand yourself, your audience, based on that measurement, you're always going to get different numbers, you're always going to have competing information. And so again, as a platform, as a publisher, do you really feel confident transacting on something where you have no insight into, it's from some company, from somewhere that you've never talked to, you have no idea how it works? That's something that we're trying to be able to solve for the industry, is to have that commonality. Again, BARC has agencies, advertisers, broadcasters, publishers alike, working together towards bringing this AICM digital measurement. And again, from our perspective, what we're looking to be able to solve is, it's an industry body offering, right? It's something that we can provide trust and reliability from that. Again, the robustness that only a measurement provider focusing on this for an industry can provide that type of robustness, because everyone else will look to do it the quicker, cheaper, easier way, because that's the only thing that they're able to do. We're looking to provide accurate, that's what BARC is about. How do we get the most accurate, robust data with what we're able to do? Again, transparency is important. Private companies don't have to be transparent with you. As an industry body, we are beholden to the industry. We provide whatever transparency we are able to build the confidence that what we're doing is best for the industry. Standardization is the key thing here, right? If things aren't standard, if they're not comparable, if you can't then go back to somebody and say, hey, I use the BARC number, and the other person understands and transacts it and is willing to trust that number as well, then you have nothing. Now, I told you we're covering streaming video, PCs, smartphones, tablets, across broadcast or non-broadcast. We'll be looking to cover smart TVs, connected devices, and all that in the future. That's still something globally that has some technical limitations to get to that from a measurement perspective. Most markets who solve that today use router meters, but in India you have less than a 3% penetration of routers, probably closer to 1 to 2%. Right? And so again, in the smart TVs that are sold, if you look at the smart TV numbers, a lot of those are sold to institutions, hotels, businesses, right? They're not by the individual consumers who then have a high-speed, connection to then enable that smart TV functionalities. So how Bark is looking to solve this for you guys is with the rollout of a couple different products over the coming months and year is that AICM suite of products. So each one of these components are integral pieces to build up to that TV plus digital, to that AICM Integra product, which is what everyone wants. If I could give you AICM Integra of the TV plus digital tomorrow, I would do it, right? But unfortunately, again, we have TV measurement, but we need to get that digital measurement up in place so that you can actually transact and see the two together, because otherwise, again, you have one or the other. So AICM Pulse will be our first product, which we'll look to roll out later this year. We'll be providing more specific dates as we get closer to the launch. But ultimately, again, it's focusing on ad campaign focus. So wherever the video ads are, we would look to be able to cover that across the landscape. And again, it's about reaching what is the reach? Most agencies and advertisers I talk to is how do I find the unique reach? Well, I get a reach number from one publisher and I get a reach number from another publisher. But if publisher A told me I got 1 million people and publisher B told me I got 1 million, I have no way to duplicate that. I have no way to say that it was the same person on their mobile device versus PC or from publisher A to publisher B. If I can't look at that, then again, I may be trying to get to 2 million reach, but in reality, you're getting somewhere in between because, again, there's a lot of overlap, and if you have that measurement that is broken down in that way, you will never be able to get that true number that you're looking to target on. Now, on target is another thing. Again, our biggest focus is audience. How do you get to the audience that you're looking to reach? Now, Beam will be a next product that we'll look to launch, is focusing on linear TV. Your Geo TVs, your Vodafones, your Airtels, your Dittos, any of your live streaming type of programs are what's growing, one of the quicker growths of the market. Nowhere else around the world do I see these live streaming on smartphone devices as big of a component. In the US, I never streamed anything on my smartphone. No one I knew streamed things on their smartphone from a live service. They wait till they got home, they had their own smart TV, whether in their bedroom or at their own house, and they streamed it on the bigger, better experience because, again, they weren't spending hours a day in commutes back and forth. They had their own TV. They didn't have to share that. They could watch what they wanted in a better experience. And again, that's one of the differences of the India landscape. And so we can't try to target how we measure this in the same way that these other markets have to. AICM Stream will be looking to cover from all other digital video content. Right? So again, that's your OTTs, your Hotstars, your Voots, your Sony Livs, and all of them is ultimately, again, if you think about it, these are the other major components to the puzzle. We have TV. You need to be able to get the streaming TV on digital devices, and now the catch-up TV on digital devices. Ultimately, again, if it's about what people watch, then you have to measure what people watch across the ecosystem, and these components help us get to that. The AICM Ad Scan is something that we're looking to launch as an industry first around the world. There's no digital industry around the world that's covering this type of measurement of what are the digital ad spends, what are the trends at the industry level. AICM Pulse is about the campaigns and for that specific client. AICM Ad Scan is about what is going on in the industry to help give you a look ahead and see what's going on in the marketplace. And again, this is something that nowhere else around the world has it, but that everybody around the world wants. AICM Integra, again, is our final product we'll be looking to roll out from that perspective. And again, it's what everyone wants. How do I get incremental reach of TV plus digital, or for some, digital plus TV, right? It's something that we need to start that journey. The first 4 products, although digital focused, are critical stepping stones to get us to this component, right? We need to be able to measure the ads and the content wherever they are to be able to get you a true view of the TV plus digital. So in conclusion, we'll be looking to measure who, and whether that was an actual person or not, right? Across the different digital devices, both ads and content, to be able to deliver things like unique in-target reach and frequency with common methodology and comparable metrics about deduplication. And ultimately, again, it's about, as an OTT player here, right, is how do you distinguish yourself? Right now, you have a lot of people out there selling things, and if they have a better sales team, how do you distinguish yourself if you're not able to be compared along with them, right? So this allows you to be compared across the industry, allows you to have something that you can go back to your clients and say, hey, this is what we use, and the BARC numbers are trusted. Thank you.
We don't have time for questions, but I'll put one to you.
Sure.
Because we're going a little over time. Will the industry be in for some shocks when you start the measurement, like they were with the BARC TV measurement? We are seeing GEC viewership disappearing. Will the industry be in for some shocks when you start your digital
I think-
digital offering?
I think any market is in for a shock when they start to get a true representation of what it was, because it's always a difference of what was been sold to them before, but when you're sold 5 different versions of the same story, right? How do you even know what the truth is? And so again, the shock may come from looking at sets that are maybe not as robust. And so again, for some people, it's going to have to be about readjusting to a more robust thing that they're able to trust in the first place, instead of trying to compare it to things that had different methodologies and again, weren't there to cover the entire industry.
So you expect some shocks?
I think any measurement, if done right, will shock some people when there was no measurement to be able to do the same thing in the first place.
All right, so industry gear up for that, for some shocks when they start rolling out the measurement. Thank you very much, Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you.